Hello and good afternoon. My name is Martin Cowart, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour, where we've been gathered on the internet every day, almost since the beginning of this pandemic, to love and support each other through this crisis. And I'm just so glad that we've done this because it has been such a grounding force for me. And I have so much enjoyed the relationships and the support I give and receive here. And that's what it's really all about. It's about how we put contemplation into action to move us through a world that's pretty chaotic right now and pretty uncomfortable. And I want to talk today a little bit. There's my dear friend, Audrey. Hey, Audrey, how are you feeling today? Good to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about the scarcity mindset, something that we've all experienced, and how we, not only what it is and how we get out of it, but how this, and that's what this is. The contemplative prayer practice is how we let go of that egoic scarcity mindset that so many of us, particularly growing up in our culture, have. And so I want to talk a little bit about and behavior out of it. The scarcity mindset is a way, and please just do what Audrey did. If you're joining me, just type your name into the chat and say hello. Also, I love conversation. So if you will, ask me some questions, and I'm sure you don't have to agree with me. If you got a question or you want to, I'm open to that. This is not just me having a dialogue. The first part of this session is always about I have a little teaching that I come up with, and then we have some kind of spiritual talk, some kind of maybe a prayer or something, and then we move from that into a 20-minute meditation. And if we have time at the end, we have some more conversation. But it's an hour. I call it a power hour because it's a way for us to tap into that powerful infinite intelligence, that creative aware mind, the creative genius we all have, whatever you want to call it. I call it Joy the Wise Woman, the divine, whatever word works for you that feels right for you. But it's called a power hour. It's a way to stop in the middle of the day and sort of recharge our batteries. We've all been working hard all day long, getting pulled out of ourselves, and this is an opportunity to recharge, to get back some power. So I look forward to it every day, and I want to talk about something that takes all of our power away, and that's called the scarcity mindset. And for me, it's always about me trying. For me, most of my life, my own story is that I was driven by fear that I learned. Heard my mother arguing with my father, and probably took on as a kid. It sounded like something horrible. It was just simply my mother being afraid that we didn't have enough money to put milk in my mouth. But for a 5-year-old, it sounded pretty scary to see my sweet mom angry with my father about something called money. I didn't even know what money was, but I knew that I better make a lot of it or I was going to get what he got, So I created this really deep belief in me that said, if you're not rich and successful and make a lot of money, you're not worthy. You're not worthy of love. You're not lovable. So, and I got pretty successful, but it was driven by fear. And that's the scarcity mindset, because it comes from a belief that there's not enough resources to go around, and that I'd better go out and get my fair share no matter what we do, so that I can have enough for me, and my family, in my world. It's a very narcissistic way of viewing the world. It's the negative side of our journey in the world, and we all have to go on. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we get challenged. So one day, my darkest hour, my spiritual. I'll tell you the story. It's one little story about. My business back in 2017 was just completely. Here I was, a pretty successful guy in the wealth management world, working for a Fortune 500 company with an office on Park Avenue on the 44th floor, overlooking Park Avenue, 2 doors down from the managing director. I mean, if you were to come by and visit me, you would think I was the most successful wealth manager on the freaking planet. You didn't know that I was dealing with imposter syndrome, and I was terrorized by money, really, inside. And so I remember one time in all that desperation, I did trying everything I could to keep my business going. And I had a few clients, and I was trying to close this one deal. I think it was like $5,000, something like that, which to me at the time was like my mortgage payment. I mean, it was like 2 months mortgage payment. So I needed this $5,000 to close. And the guys walked away. They just walked away. I don't blame them. I was so damn hard to work. I was so full of fear. I was hard to work with. I'm sure that was a pain in the neck. I'm sure that my fear of them not closing was just written all over my face, call this. So, but I after they had kind of walked away from the deal, I was pretty upset about it. And I called my coach, my spiritual teacher, and I started telling her the story, and she listened for a little bit. And finally she said, Martin, I know this is frustrating for you, but I wanted to ask you a question. Why are you so worried about $5,000 when you know you have got the keys to the kingdom? Now, I don't know with her. I know what she meant by the keys to the kingdom. She knew I knew how to go up to a higher level of consciousness into that divine love. But see, I was stuck in this scarcity world. I couldn't feel into the truth of abundance. And I had to have her kind of guide me out of that space. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have spiritual directors. Because when we're in the darkness, we are in the dark. We can't see. We can't see the obvious. So once I realized that I had the keys to the kingdom, as she put it, once I realized that I come from abundance, that I have everything in, I shifted from that scarcity mindset. I was freed from that scarcity mindset, which is just all a story in my head anyway, but it feels so real because it's so painful. But it feels real. It feels like this is you're in doom. You're in darkness. You can't see the truth. So I get you out. But once you see the truth, and you feel the truth. I mean, you feel the power of abundance within you. You feel the power of love within you, that creative part of ourselves. That's what you're talking about. The keys is that creative genius within us. That we're created out of abundance. And once we realize that's who and what we are, we no longer worry about money anymore. Because we know that we have everything within us and we're tapped into that higher creative source of power, what we might call infinite intelligence. Within our doing, we realize who we're being. We know we're being abundant. We come from abundance. We're being from love. We're not just a separate entity. We're actually part of a much, much bigger energetic force called the creative nature of the world. We are creators. So then, and that's the key. That's the key. I am a creator. You are a creator. And when we realize that truth, then our doing becomes creating. And it becomes a whole lot more fun, a whole lot more imaginative, because now we have a sense of purpose in the world. I mean, we're here for a reason. And that's to love each other. It's that simple. And to bring our gifts, our unique gifts and talents to the contribution of the world, to make the world better for other people. Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I bring this to you as a gift in order, taking up, you can say, well, why don't you take up all your time? This is, I have infinite time. The part that's talking to you, the part that's listening, there is no such thing as time. It's infinite. That life force is infinite. There's infinite resources, infinite time. That's what abundance is. It's infinite resources. There is no shortage. There is no lack, period. End of story. So when you realize that, when you get really crystal clear, that's what we come from. You feel empowered. You feel like you have a sense of power about yourself that's bigger than you individually. And your talk and your listening and you're doing is all allowing that source of life power to just flow through this let your body become more of a servant, if you will. You see, the scarcity mindset wants things for this particular narcissistic body, human being, to get its own way. And it's afraid it's not going to get whatever it thinks it needs unless it's got more money or more this or more that or more this and more this. But it's just not true. And once you realize the truth, then you're free of that scarcity mindset. And it's a lot more fun to live from a place of abundance, to live from the truth, to live from love. Love is a creator. Fear is a destroyer, right? Fear is how we create wars and all kinds of violence and every kind of thing, because we're afraid we're going to lose our power. I mean, just look at the Republican leadership right now. They're not bad people. You keep wondering, how in the world could they be so blind? We just had this, they just had the ex-president of the United States literally have a mob of thugs attack our Capitol and try to kill the vice president. And yet they don't see anything wrong with it. We thought, what in the world? It's because they're living in fear. There's a huge shadow. They can't see it. They're not stupid. They're just living in darkness because they're so afraid of losing that little thread of power they think they have. I heard Lindsey Graham say something like, it didn't care about anything, he just wants to win. Win what? What's he winning? His own sense of power. It's all coming out of scarcity. So what we can do now is not blame them, is we can open our hearts. Don't shine. Don't blame the darkness for being dark. That's its nature. They are acting out of their shadow nature of not enough, unworthy, just like anybody does. They're all acting out of a fear of not being good enough. And they're not by themselves, by the way, until they tap into this source. So it's a very narcissistic, and that's why people who are narcissistic follow narcissistic leaders, because they identify with that method of operation. That's why it's called the darkness. But fortunately, we have come through the last year and we have evolved. We're different people. We're different people today. Most of us are. Some are still, and this is what my teacher tells me all the time, either you're going to evolve or you're going to perish. Either you're going to evolve or you're going to perish. Because that soul entity, without its connection with the divine, is not going to live for long because it can't get the power it needs in order to operate. The perceived power it needs. Position of power, whatever it's called that. So they're going to, this was going to happen. I tell you what's going to happen, exactly what's going to happen. Some are going to perish. Some of you're never going to hear from again. They're over the next 5 years, they're going to completely vanish off the earth. Some are going to see the light. They're going to open their hearts and they're going to realize the truth, and they're going to become part of a new world within the Republican Party. I'm excited about what's going to come out of it. What I'm really excited about is what's going to grow. We need a two-party system. So I'm really excited to see what grows out of the ashes from this destruction. You see, the fear has destroyed the old Republican Party of racism and all this white supremacy and all this nonsense. It's gone. It has had a painful death, but it's gone. And it's still there's some people still hanging on. And they're going to hang on as long as they can, or they'll either open their hearts and they'll realize they have everything they need. They don't need to have that position of power. They got tons of abundance, and they'll begin to want to make a contribution to the world. They'll be wanting to bring their gifts to the world, like to care for others and make the world better for everybody. They'll begin to do their jobs as leaders, or they won't, and they'll go away. That's something we can be excited about, because the scales have now tipped, and we're not going back to an old way of living in all that scarcity and doubt and not enough. Corporations right now are beginning to think, how can we collaborate? They're not thinking, you know, I remember I was talking back in the summer, I'm on a board for some financial organizations, and this guy who's sort of white guy, rich white guy, of course, he said, oh, if the Democrats win, we're going to have tons of regulations. It's going to be the end of our industry. I said, you don't know that. You don't know that. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but you don't know that, and I don't either. I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. You're going to start seeing collaboration. You're not going to see a need for regulation. You only need regulation when people misbehave, working out of shadow. But you're going to start seeing more and more collaboration. And just the CEO of GM, who happens to be a woman, by the way. It's amazing how many women are helping us move. I saw today they've got 2 new women 4-star generals. I think that is amazing to me, because it's the women's movement. It's the divine feminine that's moving us out to becoming a more caring, loving, and fiercely loving community and world. But we're going to start seeing more collaboration with corporations. What did she say she wanted to do? She's not worried about regulating how much fossil fuel. She's came in and said, "Why don't we're going to make it our responsibility to create all electric vehicles by a certain date in the future." That's collaboration, because we all want to protect the environment. Corporations aren't bad people. Capitalism is not a bad thing. It's been misused. When we look at capitalism from a place of scarcity and not enough, we got to get our own share. Yes, then capitalism, it's not working, because it's not working for everybody. The definition of capitalism is for everybody to be able to make a profit and do what they want with their money. It's a free enterprise. And that can either be in a corporation or it can be an individual. Well, it doesn't matter. But a capitalistic world is not a bad world. It's actually, there's a golden part. It's a wonderful way. It's a free democracy for everybody to bring their gifts to the world and make money. And then they can create more wealth, make more money, create more wealth. It's a great system if it's not coming out of shadow. It's coming out of abundance. That's why I'm having this conversation today. Because I think that, it's one thing to have, and what we do in contemplation, contemplative prayer, which is what we do, which is the act of getting still, quieting the mind that's got all these problems and all these worries and all this, don't have enough, don't have enough, don't have enough, don't have enough. Shh, quiet. Let go. Let go of it all. Surrender it. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's the truth. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But if I let go of my negative beliefs about tomorrow and move into abundance, then I can begin to create a future tomorrow. I can begin to project societal systems, economic systems for the benefit of everyone. Infrastructures. I mean, I love that Pete Buttigieg, the first openly gay man to become a cabinet member, came out and said he wanted the United States to be the leader in high-speed rail technology. Isn't that great? Why not? That's envisioning the future out of abundance. We have everything. There's no reason we can't. We have everything we need to make it happen. You can retool all these defense contractors, engineers, and all the people that build bombs and crap like that to kill each other. We could have them all retool to building transportation systems that are economically and environmentally better, that we can all benefit from. That's coming from abundance. That's coming from our creative, abundant nature. And wouldn't that be a lot more fun than making bombs? Think about it. the people who are making those bombs or ammunition and weapons and all that kind of stuff, I think they'd have just as much fun putting those resources to work, creating a state of the art, beyond our imagination, high speed rail system, wouldn't you think? I think so. I think they would. So the point of this is to say, get out of your scarcity mindset. And the way we do that is through meditation. I want to read a little prayer today that came up across my screen. Actually, I want to read this whole piece. It's beautiful. This is today's Lent in the Catholic Church, in the Christian Church is known as Lent. And I'm going to read something called A Cosmology of Connection. It was from Richard Rohr's meditation this morning. And let's read what he has to say. It's not so much about scarcity, but I think it doesn't really matter. I mean, I think I got my scarcity point across. And so I want to read this. I think this is pretty nice. It's also, he talks about something by a woman named Barbara Holmes, who's an African-American theologian, and just wonderful piece here. And maybe we can tie some dots, getting it connected to scarcity. Let's read this and see if we can bring it into the abundance conversation. You want to? Let's see what we can do. A cosmology of connection. Christians often use the season of Lent, which begins today, the 6.5 weeks preceding Easter, to reconnect with God and the fullness of our own humanity, the good and the bad, in some intentional way. The act doesn't need to be sacrificial or impressive, but I've found that some form of contemplative practice, reflection, and commitment is a wonderful way to draw closer to God during this time. The world insists that we are what we do and achieve. But see that? The world, the external world, insists that we are. I just saw a thing that Rush Limbaugh died. The world insists that we are what we do and achieve. But contemplation invites us to practice underdoing and underachieving, and reminds us of the simple grace and humility of being a human being, of being human. That's exactly what I was saying. It's more fun to be than when we move into our being and let the being do the doing. It's a lot more fun. I offer you this description from Barbara Holmes about her own nature-based contemplative practice. And now Barbara Holmes is an African-American theologian, brilliant, written several books, and I'm crazy about her messages. One of the ways, this is Barbara talking now, one of the ways I practice contemplation in my life is through fishing. It's the space and the place where I find a real connection through the ocean, the waves, the sound of the water, the birds diving, and the struggle with the adversary, which is the fish. Now, normally we throw them back, but on occasion we bless them for giving us nurture and nourishment, and we keep them. I fish with my husband, George, because I am one of the Gula women who is a shaman in my family. I am really open, so I don't look at a lot of violent movies, and I don't like to kill things, and I can't put live bait on, and I can't take hooks out of fish that are wishing they could live. All of these sensitivities make this practice that I need a partner for. And my husband, George, loves to be in support of it. So we don't talk a lot. We commune, we listen to music, sometimes, oftentimes not. But it's being in the cycle of life and enjoying that struggle. And enjoying giving life back and releasing some. And realizing that this is the dream that I asked God for long ago. And so God's grace for me has been that my husband and I live out a dream I've had since I was a child, to breathe salt air and to just learn how to be. I think it's working pretty well what I had, that being. My parents had to struggle. Suddenly, Martin Luther King had opened a way, And the cheer and the rallying cry behind us was, go as far as you can. Go as fast as you can go. Get as many degrees as you can. You now have a chance to be somebody. And I ran it as hard as I could and got as many degrees as I could and 3 or 4 careers. But to just be is such a blessing. And Richard finally ends up saying, I suppose the equivalent of barber's fishing in my life would be walking my dog. It really can be a contemplative practice where I engage with God, with nature, and with my own beloved friend Opie. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just being me and being in love with the world. Isn't that a wonderful way to think? Just being ourselves and being in love with the world. Our dog, our partners, our wives, our husbands, our friends. Just being in love. Being in love. What a wonderful thing to think about as we set this timer and do a little meditation. Anybody want to say anything before we start? Love to hear comments. And I'll just say a little rest in peace for Rush Limbaugh, a conservative radio pioneer who permeated the airwaves for decades, has died of lung cancer. Let's say a prayer for him and his loved ones who may not have always agreed with his politics, but he was a human being nonetheless, with a heart. So let's say a special prayer for him on this Lenten Wednesday. So let's turn off this noisemaker here, and let's set the timer, and let's meditate. So start by raising your arms up in the air to get some energy into our body. Just to get that life force flowing more fully in our body. Expand your arms out wide. Feel your butt in the chair, your feet on the floor. Feel what it's like to be alive inside your body. And you can bring your arms down and get comfortable. And just begin to breathe. And a little technique that I like that I'll tell you about is to take the tip of your tongue and gently rest it on the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth. And slightly part your lips and relax your jaw and relax the back of your tongue. And just let that get comfortable so that the breath can easily flow in and out of the nose and the mouth. And then there's that bell we're going to hear 4 times during the meditation to wake us up from our thinking. So we can surrender it back to God, surrender it back to the emptiness, the space within us of creation. So nice and slowly and with intention, breathe up into your nostrils, up into your head and down your throat. Open up your heart. Open up your belly, expand the belly, and pull that breath deep, deep, deep within your belly and let it anchor there for a moment. Allow yourself to feel the spaciousness of the breath inside you and let it go. And just breathe normally for a second or two. And notice any thoughts that come up into your head. And the invitation is just let them go. Hold on to nothing. Any beliefs you have about me or yourself or what's good or bad, right or wrong, surrender them all. Any worries, any problems, just let them go. So that infinite intelligence in you can go to work on them. Say, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to solve this problem. I created the problem, but I don't know how to solve it. I need a bigger, higher, more powerful part of myself to help me right now. So with intention, just let it go. And breathe again, nice deep breath up in through your nose, down the back of your throat. Relax your tongue as it goes by. Massage that tongue. Expand the heart. And then really expand the belly. And pull that breath deep, deep, deep down inside of you. And anchor that breath deep within you to create more space for the divine. And just let it go. Let it ease out like a balloon just deflating. Let yourself for a moment come back to a normal breathing. And just be. Like we just read, just be with yourself. Be with yourself in love. In this moment. Make this the most precious moment in the world. Your primary purpose right now is to just be still and breathe and love. That's it. So we're going to take one more deep breath into the nose, around the heart. Expand the belly and let it just fill you up and anchor you inside the space. And then just let it go. And just allow the breath to breathe. The natural rising and falling of your rib cage. Stay focused on that if you can for a while, particularly if the mind begins to wander. The mind begins to think. You can come back to the breath. Come back to that anchor in your belly. And just be still. Oh, the sweet sound of that wake-up bell. To wake us up out of our thinking, our plotting, our planning, our worrying. Just let it go. Let it all go. And trust in the divine nature within you called love to hold you and re-nourish you and replenish you. Oh, there's the sweet sound of that bell. To wake us up from our thinking, our worrying, our planning, whatever our mind is occupied with. Don't punish the mind. Thank the mind for doing its job and just say, let go. Thank you, but take a break. Let go. Fall back into the loving arms of the divine. One more sweet bell to wake us up out of our thinking. Boy, I was in a deep problem-solving space, so I'm glad to let that go. Surrender it. Let it go. Fall back into love. There's our final bell. Welcome back. How you feeling? It's nice to just be, isn't it? And it's so interesting when I'm being in contemplation, how active my mind will want to act. So I just have to say, be still. But I do feel restored. How about yourself? Oh, Audrey, you're so welcome. It's always nice to have some company here today. There's not many people here today. I don't know where everybody's gone. That's okay. My scarcity mindset, there's not many people here. My abundance mindset is everybody I need is right here. You. You don't need anything else. At least you're the only person that's saying anything. I don't really know how many people are here. Millions of people have access to it across the globe. We do get people from South Africa and Bangladesh and all kind of places sometimes. So I never know. So I'm never alone. We're never alone, really. But my shadow side, we say, oh, see, nobody shows up, nobody's here, nobody really cares what you got to say. But my heart says, you got all you need. You got Audrey here. That's all I need. And I feel good. I feel abundant. I feel restored. That's what I get to take into my afternoon. I'm getting ready to be teaching a course this afternoon in my new Facebook group for gay men. So I'm excited about that. A little scared, but it's only for men in the group. So I only got 44 people in the group so far. I've only had it for a week. And the odds are, they say, if you get one person to attend out of your 1%, well, that'd be less than a person. So if I get one person, I've beaten the odds. But it's really interesting to put yourself out here to them in the internet as an internet seller, as an internet influencer. So we're all influencing in some way. Anyway, great to see you, Audrey, and always glad to have you here. Anybody else is joining? If you're watching the replay, please put your comments in the comment section. I'd be happy to answer them. We've always practiced compassionate truth. Truth without compassion is mean, and compassion without truth is meaningless. You put two together, and you got the power to change the world. So just put your comments in, and from a place of compassionate truth, and we'll all have a good time here. So in the meanwhile, one other thing, I just mentioned I have a new Facebook group specifically for men, specifically for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. I do that because I think we have our own special, like women have their own things, and we all have our own needs and concerns and shadows to look at. So I did it just so we have some place to safe for us to do our work. So if you're not if you're not in that group, you come here, because I'm not going anywhere, but I just made that especially for us. So if you are a gay or man or a transgender man or a bisexual man, please come over and join our Facebook group, the Financial Heart Space for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. It's a place especially for us, particularly for those of us who are entrepreneurs, or people who maybe you're in like I was, you're in a big corporate place and you have a sort of deeper yearning to be an entrepreneur. But come check us out. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, but you might discover we all got that deeper calling to bring our gifts to the world. That's what it's all about. So again, thank you so much again for joining me today. I know I feel so much calmer and so much more at peace and so much more powerful. And I hope you do too. So that's why we're here. May love and prosperity prevail.